the the Roswell incident is something we spoke about
Mhm,
offline,
mhm.
and you had mentioned to me that you could give me an explanation of the Roswell incident. And for people who aren't aware, the Roswell UFO story, it's been analyzed, it's been mythologized, it's been weaponized for conspiracy theories, even. But it's one of the most talked about, explored incidents of UFO lore. So tell me about Project Mogul, its connection to Roswell, and your meeting with physicist Judge Ellison.
Yes, I was, convinced long ago that, the Roswell incident, was not a UFO, that it was, due to balloons they were using, and I read the, 2 volumes of, research, that was released by the United States government in the 1990s about the Roswell incident and so on, but when I met Judge Ellison at Georgia Tech, when I was working on another project, I found someone who worked on that project, Project Mogul, in Roswell, New Mexico, and he knew exactly what had happened. So it turns out these balloons they'd send up, it wasn't just a balloon, it was a string of 30 balloons strung together in a long line of balloons. And the thing was made so that it would rise in the atmosphere until it got too high in the atmosphere. It would recognize that because it had an altimeter on board, and it would release the top balloon. So you'd lose some of your uh, lifting capability, and the thing would come down to a decent altitude. And then one of those things to just fly around very high in the atmosphere so they could detect uh, Soviet atomic bomb testing. Because atomic
Mm,
bomb testing puts a shock wave into the atmosphere. It's a sound so low you can't hear it. It's a low frequency sound. But if you make a microphone that is big enough, it can hear those low sounds. So these balloons be carrying up a microphone connected to a radio transmitter, and you're listening. You have a radar on the thing. It has a radar reflector on it, so you can track it with radar, so you know where it is, know how high it is, and you can hear what's coming in on that microphone. The microphone gives you a low frequency pulse. I think that's got to be a test of a nuclear bomb. So that's what they were for. And Ellison had uh, invented and worked on the microphone that would work on it. And it was a big disc. It looked like a snare drum or something. And uh, they called him the flying disc. That was
mm.
the name that
Flying saucer, yeah.
they called.
Flying disc, flying saucer, yeah.
And when one of those things went down in a storm, it was all very, very secret. You didn't want the Soviets to know that we were listening in the atmosphere to their atomic bomb explosions. And for that reason, it was top secret. So when the thing came down on a guy's farm, you had to not tell him exactly what it was, but you had to go out and get the stuff off his farm. And they have an officer who works with the local publications, the newspaper, and so on, the journalists, and he's supposed to tell them what happened, but not really tell them what happened. And he said, "Well, this thing landed, and it was a flying disc." And they took that to mean it was a flying saucer, and it was from another planet. And the thing
Mm,
got out of control just because of what he had said. And then this guy in Washington State was flying an airplane near in the mountainous region of Washington State. They saw these things flying around. It looked like they were connected, because they were all following each other. And they said they looked like flying saucers. That's where the whole flying saucer frap began. But what he was seeing was the fact that one of these strings of balloons, which are made to go up to Washington State and then fly over the ocean and end up in Siberia, had gotten loose and was literally watching the string of balloons, which look like they're connected because they are connected, and the wind is blowing them around. And he said they look like flying saucers. So that's where it came from.
Yeah. I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough with UFO and UAP sightings, which is that the assumption that a UAP is extraterrestrial or interstellar technology can work in the government's favor if they're testing out
Yeah,
classified military secrets, which is what I suspect was happening in New Jersey with the increase in these strange drones is that maybe the military was testing a new technology out and trying to see how civilians would react or trying to comb some swath of the population for data or geographical swarming, like whatever they were doing. It seems to me that the New Jersey drone situation, there's a high chance that it was a black military project and people said it's a UFO and then they just didn't say anything because the
absolutely.
vac the vacuum creates room for conspiracy and speculation, and if it works to the government's advantage, why would they come out and tell you what it actually is if the public creates the story for them?
The government does that all the time.